we go.
Go ahead and call to order.
Oh, Leslie is.
Should I tap? Tonight is the March 7th, I'm ad-lib me, Thursday, March 7th, Planning Commission meeting.
Mr. Kane, will you take roll?
Daly, Friedrich.
Here.
Honig.
Here.
Horgan.
Here.
Irwin.
Here.
Kostreva.
Here.
Leash.
Here.
Ortman.
Here.
Rise.
Here.
Madam Chair, you have a quorum.
Thank you. Next item on the agenda is approval of the agenda.
Move to approve.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion passes. Next item on the agenda is approval of the minutes.
Move that we approve the minutes as presented.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion passes. Next item on the agenda is the Zoning Board of Appeals report. Commissioner Friedrich?
Madam Chair, we did not meet last month.
Thank you, Commissioner Friedrich. And next item on the agenda is communications.
Madam Chair, there are no communications this month.
Thank you. And then next item is public hearings, SUP 1901. Mr. Kane?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Our first case tonight is a special use permit request for 213 and 213 and a half Oak Street. This is a request for a special use permit for a short-term rental in an existing two-family dwelling. The property in question is Zone CD4 General Urban with a future land use of Central Business District. As I mentioned, the current and prior use of the property was as a two-family dwelling. The property owner at the time of application was Tracy Spear. Since the time of application, the applicant, the Naturopathic Institute Community Center, has purchased the property. And the site area is 0.18 acres. The property is located on Oak Street. This is between Michigan and Illinois streets on the east side of that street. Immediately to the north of the subject property is the American Legion Post. Immediately to the south of the property is a single-family dwelling. Immediately to the east of the property is another two-family dwelling, and immediately to the west of the property are single and two-family dwellings. All of the properties on the subject properties block are Zone CD4 General Urban with a future land use of Central Business District. The properties immediately to the west have a future land use of multiple residential medium. Photograph on the screen is a picture of the subject property looking from Oak Street toward the east. So this would be the front of the property. Immediately to the left of this image would be that American Legion Post. And the picture on your screen now is a picture of the dwelling viewed from the rear alley looking toward the northwest. So again, that American Legion Post building would be located right there. This would be the subject dwelling. Short-term rentals are subject to a special use permit in the CD4 zoning district. The special use criteria for this use are listed in your staff report as well as on the screen. The subject property does comply with the special use permit criteria for a short-term rental special use permit, with the exception of that first condition, which again, as with our prior consideration of special use permits for short-term rentals, that is subject to the Planning Commission's discretion and determination. So with that, staff's recommendation is that the special use permit be approved with the condition that the applicant meet the requirements of the Division of Public Safety. We do have our representative here this evening from the Naturopathic Community Center to answer any of your questions on behalf of the applicant, and I would welcome any questions from the Planning Commission. Madam Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Kane. Any questions for Mr. Kane? Okay, if the applicant, sorry.
Normally we get the site plan, like we get more information about like the conditions like around the property.
Typically not for a short-term rental. All of the cases that the Planning Commission's heard to date for short-term rentals have been an SUP application only and haven't been accompanied by a site plan. If it's helpful, I can jump back to the photographs of the subject property if you'd like to take a closer look.
Is it a duplex?
Yes, yeah,
Okay.
the existing dwelling is a two-unit dwelling. This special use permit would allow for the applicant to use both of those units as short-term rentals.
Okay.
It is currently licensed, both units, in a two-family dwelling in the city when there's a housing license. Regardless of whether or not either unit's owner occupied, both units are licensed by the fire department.
Okay. So that would allow 4 people altogether in the whole
Yes,
building?
up to 2 unrelated people in each of those 2 units. That's a good question. So yeah, again, this is the front of that property, so you can, of course, wintertime makes it a little bit harder to see things, but you can make out the public sidewalk here. So in this picture, I'm actually standing in Oak Street, taking the photograph of the front of the house. And then this would be, again, the view from the rear alley, so the alleyway is running right here. There is a small carport structure that's located off the alleyway that's on the subject property here. And then again, this would be the rear of that dwelling. There's a sidewalk that runs along the northern edge of the property that provides access to the second unit, and is basically abuts the American Legion Hall, which is built essentially to the property line.
Any other questions? Okay, if the applicant would like to come up.
My name is Julie, and I'm representing the Naturopathic Community Center, and it's connected to the Naturopathic Institute, connected to Herbs Etc. So if you know where all those things are, down here on 503 East Broadway Street. Now, I'd be happy to answer any questions that you have.
Got one. I see you mentioned students here. What's the average age of your students? Do you get mostly adults, college-type kids? I mean, how?
The median age of our students is 32 years old.
32.
And they come to learn to be naturopathic doctors. So they are a studious group.
Any other questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
I'll open this up for discussion, or, sorry, I should open it up for public comment. If anyone in the public would like to come up, seeing there's no one in the public here, I'll close public comment and now open up discussion.
Move to approve SUP 1901, subject to the following condition. 1, the applicant shall comply with the requirements of the Division of Public Safety.
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion passes. Next item on the agenda is public comment. This is the last opportunity for the public to make a comment. And seeing no one in the public here to make a comment, I'm closing public comment. And next item on the agenda is new business. Mr. Kane?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Before you tonight is a request to set a public hearing on a proposed text change for your April 4th, 2019 meeting. You'll recall that at our last regular meeting, I provided you with a memo that provided some details on some upcoming text changes that you'll be discussing. The first of those, per the discussion of the Chair and Vice Chair, was a Scrivener's error to be updated. This is within the sign standards section of the zoning ordinance. Essentially, what happened is at some point in the drafting of the ordinance at the time of original adoption, a errant reference was made to a subsection 5 that should have been a subsection 4. So in the sign standards section, there's not a B5E, but there is a B4E, which is what this should have properly referenced. So the text change would correct that issue and insert the proper cross-reference. So we're just looking tonight. Obviously, if you have any questions or feedback on the ordinance itself, those would be welcomed. But the principal action this evening would be to set that public hearing for your next regular meeting.
Thank you, Mr. Kane. Any discussion or motion?
Yeah, well, I got a question. If this is a genuine error, why do we have to have a public hearing over correcting an error?
Anytime we change the text of the code in order to have it be the officially adopted law of the city, it has to go through a public process.
Even if it's a documented error? Okay.
Any other questions? Would anyone like to make a motion?
I'll move to set a public hearing to consider proposed text change at the April 4th, 2019 regular meeting.
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion passes. Next item, Mr. Kane?
Thank you, Madam Chair. We received correspondence from Chippewa Township regarding their draft master plan. It was submitted to the city for comment. I have attached that correspondence from the Secretary of the Chippewa Township Planning Commission. For those of you who don't know, Chippewa Township is located immediately to the east of Union Township in Isabella County. So it's not a contiguous township to the city of Mount Pleasant, but it is nevertheless in the Mount Pleasant community. So wanted to provide you all with an opportunity to review that draft master plan. You may find it interesting both from the perspective of our regional and community growth projections for the future, but also as we enter our own master plan process, it's obviously timely to take a peek at what other communities in the area are doing with that regard. I would ask if you do have any comments on the draft master plan from Chippewa Township that you please provide those to me no later than the 15th of this month so that I'm able to provide timely response to the township as they move forward in their process.
Any questions for Mr. Kane? And I guess no action is currently needed.
No actions needed this evening, and I will, of course, I'll also take a look at their draft master plan for both of the reasons I stated and see if there's anything of city importance that we should provide comment on.
Thank you, Mr. Kane. Next item on the agenda is staff report.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We have received two special use permanent site plan submittals. Well, I should say three special use permanent site plan submittals for our April meeting. One for a Class A grow operation at 1005 Corporate Drive, one for a provisioning center at 1005 Corporate Drive, and one for a provisioning center at 309 West Michigan Street. I am also anticipating that we will be receiving the special use permanent site plan review applications for 2157 South Mission, which was the third provisioning center that was selected in our lottery process. In addition, at the April meeting, we'll be having the public hearing on the Scrivener's error that you set this evening. So we will have a pretty interesting April meeting. Looks like we will have all of our medical marijuana cases before this board at that time. Wanted to let you all know I will be out of the office the week that packets are delivered, so the week of the 25th. I will not be in the state. I will hopefully not be responding to emails. So Becky will be in the office, so if you need anything that week, please let her know. She will be able to, of course, get a hold of me if it's urgent, but otherwise I'll be back in the office the week of our regular meeting on April 4th. We have had a meeting with McKenna to discuss the master plan process. We are quickly approaching our public engagement activities, which will be the week of April the 8th. We are having another meeting a week from today, where I will hopefully have a more concrete schedule for the week's activities on April 8th to let you know. At this point, I would ask if you can, at a minimum, keep the evening of April 8th open, as that's likely to be our kickoff event for that process. And then to the extent possible, if you can do what you can to be as free as possible the week of April 8th so that you're able to attend anything you're interested in, it would be most appreciated. That's all I have this evening for staff report.
Thank you, Mr. Kane. Any questions?
When's Easter?
Easter is almost the end of April.
I just wondered if that was like the week around Easter.
It is not. Our audience member is correct. It is April 21st. Thank you, Julie. Yep, so we got a relatively late Easter this year, so. We're anticipating the events will be concentrated between Monday and Thursday of the week of the 8th, so we'll hopefully be able to conclude things on Thursday.
Thank you. Do we have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Meeting adjourned.